Hi, this is Ashio, and welcome back to Echo. Carl is missing. We don't know where he is. And we've called the police and everything, and we're looking around in the middle of the night, trying to work out exactly where he might have gone. So, we're exploring with Jenna. Chase and Jenna are currently having a look around, and we've gone to talk to Duke. So, we're going to find out maybe he can give us some information or something. The lanky weasel is certainly looking rougher around the edges than I remember. The old man taking slow steps into his overgrown front yard. Of course he's got his gun on him, his paw gingerly clutching it while the other brandishes a cigarette. Or at least, I think it's a cigarette. "Real late for a stroll," he mumbles. "Duke, hey, good morning, it's Jenna. Is that Chase with you?" I hold up my paw and wave. "Hi." It is." Duke takes a drag from the fat cigarette, and I see some embers fling about as he taps the end. In my mind, I imagine one of those little specks of fire catching on the untrimmed grass beneath, setting everything ablaze. I know it. What Leo's been saying's true. He was seeing shit as well. Confronted him about it, and he got a wild look in his eyes, pushed me into the dirt. But here you are, in the flesh, and talking this time. I give him a befuddled look. What's he talking about? Well, Leo's going through a bit of a rough time, and that's certainly no excuse for the violence he imposed against you. However, we did see you at Cole's house, and he might have heard that he's gone missing. What good timing for your arrival then, Jasmine? It's Jenna now, but that's beside the point. His bloodshot eyes shift from me to her, and that makes me even more uneasy. Have you seen Cole since last night? Duke clicks his tongue, shaking his head more times than he really needs to. I don't think you're investigating the right mystery here. Jenna raises an eyebrow. He points a swollen pink finger in my direction, still looking at Jenna. The real question is, why has your friend here been snooping around our houses here for the past month? What? Jenna furrows her brow, a light sigh escaping from between her lips. I don't know what. I feel her hand discreetly reach over and squeeze my side. Hold on, Chase. She mutters, refocusing her attention back on the weasel. Duke, please focus on me for a moment. Listen to the words I'm saying. Have you seen Cole since last night? Duke hangs his maw open, rolling his jaw around from side to side until there's an audible click as it locks into place. I don't think you're hearing me. I heard you, Duke. Please, yes or no answer, and then we can discuss what you saw with Chase here. Duke's bloodshot gaze flicks back to me, and there's something expectant about the look in his eyes, like he's waiting for me to say something revelatory. I got no idea what he's talking about, though, and Jenna doesn't seem to want to give him an inch of leeway to change the topic of conversation. I see his teeth grip past his thin lips. Despite the intensity he's putting off, he looks kinda distracted, like we're only getting about 3/4 of his attention. Maybe it wasn't quite you, though, was it? His voice is strained and quiet. The weasel scratches his inner thigh. I didn't see the ram boy, or his little rich parents. Okay, thank you. Chase? I only got here on Saturday. I wasn't here before then. There's only really one other otter in town, as far as I know, and he probably weighs 150 pounds more than me. So I don't really know who else it could be. Duke just glares in response to that, and I can't help but drift my gaze to the gun he's holding so idly in his grasp. I think he notices, as I see his fingers clench around the base a little tighter. Okay, thank you, Duke. It's really good to see you again. If you got the time, keep an eye out for him, okay? We can't seem to track him down. He's right there. He points to me. No, I'm referring to Cole. Cole's not here. Right, we're gonna go look around some more or knock on a few doors once the sun's up. You take care, alright? Before I could so much as raise my paw in farewell, Jenna's already turned about and making her way down the street. Again, I have to hustle to catch up. Duke is spooky, dude. After another half an hour or so of searching, we end up heading back to Cole's place. After the whole interview with Duke, she starts ranting a little about meth use and the physiological effects. Admittedly, I was only picking up on bits and pieces of what she was saying. Apparently, the drug stimulates the parts of the brain that create urges of tinkering, which is why yards of meth houses often look like scrapyards after extended use. Poor Duke. No, the guy always kinda skeeved me out, even back when we were kids. I think he used to have a wife at some point, who I remember being really nice. She used to ride her bike around town all the time, and one day she stopped by to help me set up a root beer float stand. Then one day, She just kind of disappeared. Hell, I think I was playing at Leo's house when the cops came to the door and asked if Leo's parents had seen her. Jenna uses her newly acquired spare house key and lets us in. I spent so much time in Carl's house growing up that stepping inside always kind of felt like coming home. Carl's parents were never as friendly as Leo's or TJ's, but they were often just straight up absent, which means we got the run of the place. I glanced off to the side and noticed a divot in the wood panelling next to the door. Carl slammed his head there when we were roughhousing 6 or 7 years ago. It's a wonder we didn't do more damage. Jenna nudges me with her shoulder, and I shift my attention back to her. Hey, I'm gonna put something on in the living room. I've been mainly camped up here on the couch, with my laptop while you guys were out earlier, trying to get some studying done. Despite the quiet, it's a little difficult to focus with all this going on. So you want to watch TV? Well, sure, I got something in mind. She smiles at me, turning tail to head down the hall. I follow suit, briefly considering raiding the cupboards for snacks, but that kind of feels out of line considering the circumstances. Flynn had turned the air conditioning off last night, so we got the ceiling fan going on overhead. It's doing a pretty good job of keeping me cool, the blades spinning so fast they almost look still. When I was a kid, I was always afraid of having my fan on the high setting. The thing would start to wobble and click, and I thought that at any moment it would spin off its socket to come careening right off toward me. This one Cole has looks extremely sturdy though. It kinda looks like it's made out of some sort of brushed copper with a turquoise painted metal base. It's at this point I'm realising I'm not doing a good job of focusing on the anime Jenna just put on. I glance over to her to see if she's noticed my wandering gaze, but I see that her eyes are closed. At first I think she's asleep, though they begin to flutter open after some time. She rolls her head some in my direction, catching my gawkin. She smiles lightly, stretching her arms out over her head and letting out a long yawn. What? I put on my best innocent face. Just checking to see if you were as riveted by the ongoing developments of Mr. Wong's fledgling dim sum business. An amused noise escapes between her lips, her left ear twitching some as she stares at the screen with half-lidded eyes. Have the magical demon girl shown up yet? The magical demon what? I thought this was a nice little, what do they call it? A slice of life thing? Well, I suppose that's how they get you. She hums her words, her tone sleepy and warm. They lower you into something calm, low pressure, giving you a chance to really live the setting before they pull the rug out from beneath you. Jenna's tone's infectious, and even I start to speak with a sort of rumbling, only half serious whine. Do they all have to be like that? I mean, what if I just want a quiet, slow burn kind of show? It seems like all of them these days just has some fantastical bullshit that comes out of nowhere. On screen, the character of Mr. Wong, a rotund red panda, is cooking a batch of fried rice in a large wok. It's also lovingly animated for something so mundane. You can practically see each individual piece of egg, pepper, and seasoning he sprinkles on top. Chase, there are plenty of slow burn shows out there. And how would you even know? You told me you don't keep up with this stuff anymore. I mean, I occasionally will put on some anime when I'm bored back at Pueblo. Oh yeah? Well, I guess hanging out with you has made me kind of interested again. Jenna smiles again, and I can see the little tips of her tiny fangs. She shifts in her seat, scooting from her side of the sofa to mine. Her arms wrap around my torso, squeezing me some. Without really thinking, I rest my head against hers and exhale for what seems like ages. I can feel butterflies in my stomach somewhere deep down, the light prickle of goosebumps along my neck. It's so intimate, so beyond the boundaries of closeness that Jenna and I have shared in the past. But it's comfortable, no judgment or pressure. Just two people on the same wavelength, both very tired, very stressed out, and kinda slap happy. I watch her chest rise and fall against mine, her fur so much softer than mine. It's like running your paws through goose down. I slide my fingers around her shoulder and down her arm and then back up again. Is this just platonic? Like one of those cuddly girl slumber party kind of things? We never did anything like this when we were younger though. The closest thing I can think of is when we shared an air mattress when we went camping for my 16th birthday. Leo having been out of town at the time, of course. You're very cute, Chase. Her words take me by surprise, the compliment so blatant, and not something I've been told in years. It feels like a minute passes before I feel her weight shift beside me. She looks up at me, and I look back down at her. The next thing I know, her mouth is pressed against mine. My heart skips in my chest, and there's definitely some tightness in my shorts. Her muzzle was small, and my tongue easily feels its inside once she opens her lips. We continue for some time, the noise from the TV seeming to fade in the background. It's an unimportant mumbling, drowned out by our pounding heartbeats and the whir of the spinning fan above. It isn't until the episode ends, and we're left in actual silence, that Jenna seems to pause. She pulls back, eyes on my chest, and her expression indiscernible in the new darkness. I'm a little concerned about moving forward with this. I've seen how these things can sort of destroy friendships, and the one I have with you, I truly value. I'm worried we'll look at ourselves in the morning, well, in a couple of hours, and be disappointed with ourselves. Wait. I stop for a second, frowning. Are you saying that you don't want to, at least in part, because you think I'm going to be bad at it? Jenna doesn't immediately respond. Oh no. I've done it plenty of times. My voice comes out a little louder than expected, and Jenna pushes her paw to my mouth, hushing me. I pull her away, repeating myself, but this time more quietly. I'm not bad at sex. I can feel my cheeks burning at this point, Jenna's increasingly amused expression not helping at all. Chase, oh my god. Jenna's shoulders shake as she titters, clearly tickled by how flustered I'm getting. I'm serious. Yeah, I can see that. It's not exactly what I was getting at, but I'm well aware you and Leo snuck off every chance you could when you were younger. But, as you may possibly know, there are several slight differences in anatomy between Leo and I. I continue to frown at her as hard as I can. Okay, don't give me that look. Now I actually feel bad. I grunt quietly. Well, how many guys have you been with? You got to ask me earlier at the diner, so it's only fair, right? After the first year of college, I pretty much lost complete contact with Jenna's social circle. Initially, it was because Cole never really wanted to go out, so we mainly just hung out in our dorm. But by the time Cole dropped out, it was like all our social links had been severed. I'd look at the pictures she posted on her timeline, and I wouldn't recognise anybody she was friends with. It was such a contrast, seeing her at all these fancy events, wearing formal dresses and receiving awards. For a while, I thought she'd just changed, transformed by college life and the intellectual peers that she surrounded herself with. But talking to her again this week, I've come to realise that that's not the case at all. She was always that person. It was just everybody else that brought her down to our level, I guess. Been with. She leans back some, perking an eyebrow and putting on a professional visage, though she's still got a mirth-laden look in her eyes. Are you asking about dating or sex? Both, I guess. Oh, well, about the same then. 6 or 7. 6.5. Let's just say 6. What happened with number 7? She lets out an amused noise, then seems to think for a moment as she strokes her chin. Oh, it was nothing serious. Just this guy who worked at this gym I went to. I believe he was a draft horse? My mouth goes a little drier. A draft horse? She smiles lightly. He was really sweet, and the muscles were nice. Usually I don't like being picked up, but it was definitely interesting, with him being nearly 7 feet tall. I stare blankly at her, eyes wide. She continues to smile at me, though the corner of her mouth twitches and she brings her paw up to cover her muzzle. Chase, I'm messing with you. Jenna? I scowl. Wait, is that really your type? I thought you'd be more into, twiggy anime boys. I'll have you know my manga and anime interests do not control my love life. I like people primarily based off their personality. Oh, I'm fucked then. Jenna chuckles at that. She reaches out and takes my paw, giving it a firm squeeze before patting my cheek. Though it feels nice, I'm still not sure how to take all this. I'm sorry for messing with you. Her voice is clear and soft, and she punctuates the air of her sentence with a kiss on the tip of my nose. I'm admittedly a little nervous myself. Crossing new thresholds like this can be a little nerve-wracking. But make no mistake, I do want this. I let that settle for a moment before reaching up, taking hold of each of her wrists. Wait, are you serious? She nods happily. If you're okay with it, of course. Really? You and me? She nods again. Like boyfriend and girlfriend. The thought enters my head just before I speak it, and I have just enough time to close my mouth before it's uttered. She looks at me curiously. Just shut up and say yes. Yeah, I'm down with this. Yeah. Wow. What was that? No explanation. Yo, you guys been having fun? I glanced down at Jenna, her legs still entwined in my own. I quickly tried to untangle us, scooted to the other side of the couch while yanking up my shorts. She's got a firm grip on my tail for some reason, and I have to grip my teeth to keep from yelping as it tugs. Groggily, I begin to see her turquoise eyes flutter open, blinking at her surroundings, then me, and then the sound coming from the entrance hall. She rubs her face, trying to shake off the sleep fatigue. What did you say? There's some clattering noises coming from the kitchen, like the rustling of plastic bags and the clacking of Tupperware. Did he not see us? Thank fuck he's a lizard, and just can't smell us at least. I asked if you fuckers have been having fun, it's midday. Flynn, you got our texts. We were up late last night searching for coal. Yeah, making yourself at home here. What you got on over there, hentai? I checked the TV. It's frozen on the guide menu screen, grabbed of a frantic anime girl holding way more bowls of soup than is ordinarily considered reasonable. Jenna yawns into her paw, quietly pulling up a black pair of panties around her thighs, followed by her trademark jean shawls. She's so lackadaisy about it, like she doesn't care if she's caught. Her expression's distracted, but not by Flynn or me, though she does manage a quick smile in my direction when she does focus her gaze my way. I return the smile, albeit lopsidedly. Half my face still feels tingly and asleep. So we're dead fucking certain the Duke doesn't know shit then? God damn it. I hear the heavy footfalls of the Gila leave the kitchen, making his way around to us. He's holding 4 small plastic containers. He gives 2 to each of us, setting them down on the coffee table. The insides are fogged up from condensation or steam, so I can't tell exactly what they contain. It looks green, I guess. Flynn sees me gawking and lets out an exasperated puff of air through his flared nostrils. The top container's got Caesar salad, the bottom's got fresh cooked bluegill. Bluegill? I blink at the steamy container. You catch that yourself? Yeah. He perks a brow ridge. And you cooked it, just for us? The line of question seems to give the Gila pause, as if he needs to make sure he phrases his next words carefully. Jenna smirks in my direction before blowing her nose into a tissue. Usually I'd drop some off for Cole. He folds his arms over his chest. You know, to make sure he doesn't go into a full-on diabetic coma. His arteries packed up with pizza and energy drinks. That's very thoughtful of you, Flynn. Yeah, thanks, man. I give him a thumbs up, to which he just shakes his head. Whatever. Any word from the sheriff's office? Jenna reaches into her shorts and grabs her phone. She taps at it for a few moments before shaking her head. Nothing since yesterday. The person I spoke with at the office said that they would reach out to me with any questions or updates they had. God fucking useless. They're so goddamn overstaffed there anyway. How hard could it be to find one fat-ass rich kid in the middle of vast fucking nowhere? Apparently rather difficult. Just waiting for Cole's parents to post for reward money or some shit. I don't think public entities get to claim those sorts of things. Flynn scowls at Jenna for a good 4 seconds before turning away, walking to the grand living room window and peering out of the backyard. Well, yeah, I fucking know that. It just don't make a lick of sense. No food, cars or cell phones missing, nothing valuable stolen and no break-ins, no indications, besides the scuff marks that you made on the way in. Flynn, if I hadn't gone through the window, Leo would have eventually shoulder-rammed the front door down. Flynn folds his hands behind the back of his head, clenching his eyes shut. Yeah. God, what a fucking crazy ass. At least his desperate party attempt helped us figure out Cole was missing earlier. Jenna pushes herself to her feet, walking over to beside Flynn. She folds her arms over her chest. So, we briefly skimmed over this yesterday, but with regards to Cole's mental state leading up to all this... Flynn ever so slightly shifts his head in the Fennec's direction, their size difference stark as they stand silhouetted in front of the window. Is there anything you can think of that would help us out here? Anything to cause Cole to say fuck it and just running out into the desert without any belongings, you mean? Yep. Jenna answers flatly. He's been depressed as hell, but that's how he's been since he dropped out of college. All that digital art shit he used to do, he hasn't done much of that either lately. Whenever I check my phone or computer, he's always online, just sending me memes and shit all day. Despite my efforts, there ain't been much in the line of indication that he'd been planning on changing that routine anytime soon. I'm sorry to hear it. She sounds genuine on that regard, letting out a quiet sigh. Ain't nothing you can do about it from fancy college land. I finally get my ass off the couch, silently hoping that I hadn't left the surface all oily. I think he's been getting high more, says it chills him out, Helps with the nightmares and shit. Nightmares? Flynn nods. Yeah, he's been going off about how his house is haunted. Says things get weird whenever he goes to bed. Weird how? Flynn is starting to look increasingly exasperated at my continued prodding. It's evident he wants to shift his focus back to the search effort. Fuck Chase, I don't know. Bumps in the night, creepy children whispers, distant laughing, that sort of thing. Said he only heard them when he was about to fall asleep or was waking up, so he could never investigate. Interesting. Really? You said that getting high was how he coped with his newfound paranoia. I let him sleep over once, and my whole room smelled like skunk weed for a fucking week. He slept over because he was afraid to be here, in this house. No, he stayed over because I was ploughing his ass. His tone is laden with sarcasm, and I even find myself snickering a bit at the shock. Jen doesn't laugh though, meeting Flynn's gaze with an indiscernible expression. The Gila clears his throat, scratching at his stomach. Yeah, he was afraid to be here. I know enough about Cole's family to know that his house is seriously old. His great something or another is the town's founder, after all. The place has been seriously modernised into a more stucco adobe style, but there's some definite history underneath all this. Growing up, Cole started thinking there were ghosts in the house. It freaked him out pretty badly. So much so, his parents basically begged me to have sleepovers with him during the weekends and even some weekdays. Not that I minded, of course. Cole had all the video game consoles that were out, and his parents bought him M-rated games. I got to stay up late with the giant TV, blowing up aliens and running over hookers. I remember he started to become less afraid as time went on, and his parents stopped asking for me to come over as much. So, of course, shitbag younger me told Cole a bunch of stories about a ghost bride who I said I saw standing outside his house at midnight. And that's how I got to spend my whole 5th grade summer vacation living at Cole's place. The fact that Cole is still freaked out about this sort of thing is pretty concerning. Well, to be quite fair, if I held the mindset that my house was haunted and saw whatever that was on the phone was out of my window... She pauses, shaking her head. I'd probably be rather freaked out as well. Yeah, but would you run outside? That doesn't make any sense. You think this place would be more ransacked if this was like a fucking kidnapping or something? You don't try and kidnap a fucking ram without getting some serious dents and scratches in the drywall. The idea of Cole being assaulted like this is starting to give me a serious pit in the bottom of my stomach. Well, you did find some scattered plaster dust and marks on the wall near the basement crawl space. Yeah, maybe there could have been like an initial scuffle down there, and then he was held at like gunpoint or something. There's a sudden look of shock at the direness of my words that flashes across Flynn's face. Anxiety, fear, concern, all expressions seldom seen on the lizard. He quickly stifles them, adopting his usual disgruntled demeanour, emitting forth a familiar grunt in response. Guys, I think we're escalating here. No offence to you, Chase, but I think I might want to have a chat with Jeremy and myself. You can come along, of course. Same to you, Flynn. Despite Jenna's assurance of non-offence, I can't help but feel a little shitty about not pressing harder for information while I was there. I mean, fuck, I want to be a journalist, right? I can't be getting intimidated by childhood bullies. Flynn nods, but only slightly. Yeah, but Jay said he told him the drugs he sold weren't laced. Laced drugs wouldn't result in that image on the phone. Shit, I haven't talked to that flunkast in so fucking long. You were always a bit too old to get the brunt of his sadistic side when we were growing up. I thought that was mainly Clint. They all rubbed off on each other easily enough. Flynn pulls out his phone, a rather dated, first-gen looking thing from the late 2000s. He pecks at it with his large fingers, walking off toward the foyer. I'm going to text TJ and Pinball Smasher that we're together and ask him round. No need to be more specific than that. Trust me, I wasn't about to tell him where we're headed till we're done. Poor TJ, I'll make sure to text him and make sure he's alright. We start to head out as well, and he suddenly calls out back to us. Oh, and bring your goddamn lunch. It took me for fucking ever to put that thing together. Alright, we'll go for another explore. Are you nervous? I ask, trying to break the silence. Flynn takes his eyes off the road long enough to peer back at me through the rearview mirror and then glances over at Jenna. She's riding shotgun, cradling her fishy chopper in her lap so it doesn't spill. I already told you that I wouldn't mind seeing Jeremy again. Well, what about you, Flynn? Why are you asking me? Weren't my buddies? I'm not sure if that's exactly true. I have distinct memories of the Tetanus Alley crew calling him all sorts of slurs back in the day. Hell, they even started a rumour that he was some kind of sadomasochistic gay rapist. Said rumour somehow wormed its way out of Echo to our high school. I remember there was this whole thing where he got called into the counsellor's office about it. He proceeded to call the counsellor a wretched gash wow and got a 1-week suspension for it. It wasn't ever clear if any of that shit stuck. He certainly never cried about it like TJ did. Sounds more like you're the one with the issues. Frown. I'm gonna spill bluegill all over your seats. You'll be scrubbing the upholstery with my foot up your ass if you ever open the goddamn lid in my truck. Chase already spoke with them. You said you only saw Jeremy, Heather and Micah, correct? Jenna looks back at me and I nod. Micah, heard he was back in town a while ago. Never expected he'd turn up again after, 7 years? Have you gone by to say hello? There's a hint of teasing in her voice, responding to the Gilead's latent disdain for the kid that's evident in his tone. He stole my fucking dirt bike. He stole your fucking dirt bike 8 years ago. Well, he was still kind of a shithead when I visited yesterday. Yeah? I see the back of Flynn's scaly head cant curiously. What'd he do? Well, he didn't do anything to me, I guess. He just seemed like he hated my guts. I mean, I'm an adult now, so I shrugged most of it off. Still, he shouldn't be treating you like that. We're all adults now. Yeah, why can't he just drop $75,000 on a college degree that teaches you that saying slurs is bad like a normal person? Jenna gives Flair some side-eye. Are you going to ask for your dirt bike back? I ask, half joking, half trying to break the tension. I did get it back, remember? Little shit dented the fuck out of it and put his weird punk band stickers all over the body, but I got it. Literally had to go to his house and talk with his parents to get it back. Should have pressed charges. Which house was that again? It was the yellow stucco one at the end of Jasmine, one of the older buildings they constructed during World War II. His and mine were the only houses down there that weren't RVs or mobile homes. I believe it was condemned and demolished a couple of years ago, right Flynn? Flynn nods, turning off onto the dirt road. Oh yeah, the roof was caving in, the electrical was a fucking hazard, and the pipes were lead-based. Okay, I'm just going to say something mildly controversial now. This is an interesting combination of characters, and frankly, with Leo missing from the group dynamic, these guys are getting along quite nicely. So, yeah, sorry Leo, I think you might be a bit of a problem amongst this group dynamic. Lead-based? I thought that was banned before then. Major cities did. Technically, it wasn't in the building code until the 80s. Jenna frowns to herself. Let's just focus on the missing ram, alright? We drive in some silence for a while, until we see some smoke rising up from behind one of the older trailers. The hell's going on? Flynn pulls over. The distinct smoky smell of burnt mosquito pods wafts through the air. It's actually kind of pleasant. Flynn takes out his cell phone, stepping out of the truck and hustling his way over to the source of the smoke. Jenna and I exchange a quick look before following in his wake. The aroma grows stronger as we round the abandoned trailer and make our way to an outcropping overlooking the rest of the area. There's even a slight apple-like smell mixed in. As we round the bend, I can see a few lawn chairs spread around a crackling bonfire. Some of the chairs have faded princess print designs, while the others are more of the traditional camping variety. Next to them is a fluorescent orange cooler and a portable grill-looking thing that kinda looks like a toaster oven. I don't think they got a permit for this. Oh, hi! The high-pitched voice comes from behind, and the next thing we know, there's a feline bounding up toward us. I see Jenna recoil some, the fennec lingering a bit behind the rest of us. Flynn meanwhile looks stone-faced, his hands in his pockets. Hello? Oh, I was here the other day, but we have some more questions about Carl if that's okay. You were? She stares at me for a long moment. Too long, actually, and Flynn audibly sighs. Oh, I know you. You're Leo's boyfriend, right? Ex. Jenna chimes in, but seems to visibly regret it as Heather's attention swivels to her. Oh my god, Jasmine! Hi! She rushes over to Jenna, wrapping her arms around her in a tight hug. You look really good. Thanks. Jenna doesn't correct her on the name change for some reason. Instead, she very gingerly pats Heather on the back before withdrawing back a foot. I didn't shower this morning, so it's a wonder if true. Neither did I. Astonishing. Where's Jeremy at? Oh, hi Flynn. Heather waves at him, despite the gear being literally only a couple of feet away. Flynn furrows his brow some, and limply waves his hand once before stuffing it back into his pocket. Jer? Oh, I made a joke a while ago and he got really offended and walked off. It was so dumb. Where'd he walk off to? I don't know. Oh, let me get you guys a drink. We're having an AHOA party. Before anyone can say anything else, she turns heel and scampers off, her demeanour like an excited child. Once we're alone, I broach the obvious question. What's an Ahoa party? Jenna looks over at me and shrugs. Meanwhile, Flynn squints at the land around him, folding his arms over his chest and mumbling to himself. Whose property is this? I thought she lived with her dad. The one that works at the dam? The lizard sucks in his tongue and quickly shakes his head, his question evidently rhetorical. She does seem different, doesn't she? I wasn't expecting the compliments after, well, how she treated me before. Next thing we know, the feline's returning with 3 beers clutched to her chest. Hurry, 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 take 'em! They're really cold and getting my shirt wet. I blink and quickly step up to take one, kind of awkwardly sliding it from between her forearm and her cleavage. I'm not particularly hankering for a beer right now, admittedly, but I didn't exactly want to leave her hanging. After a moment of hesitation, Flynn and Jenna also take a beer. What is this, the morning? Is this breakfast? You guys can have a seat around the bonfire too. I glance over to the bonfire. It's pretty small, only about 2 or 3 feet high. Why anybody would want to hang around near a bonfire during a 90-degree springtime heatwave is beyond me. Some of the chairs are kind of small though, since they're for little girls. They're not very good for big boys. She looks up to Flynn, who stands nearly 1.5 feet taller than her. The praising's so strange, and her smiling gaze lingers way too long. What? I'm fine standing. Flynn shifts uncomfortably. She does know he's gay, right? Yeah, I recognise them. Those are mine. She points to the princess chairs, specifically one with the print of a female cat in a blue dress and tiara, surrounded by chirping woodland birds. Or were. Oh wow. Do you want them back? No. Why not? Jenna stares blankly at her. Look, Heather, when was the last time you saw Cole? Oh, She scratches herself, looking off to the side. I don't know. You should wait for Jer. He'd have an answer for you. In fact, I'll go look for him for you. Flynn steps up, his brow ridge furrowed. It's a simple goddamn question that I'm asking you specific like. When was the last time you saw Cole? Heather reels back as Flynn's tone grows more stern, the cat clutching at her own arms. I don't know. You know who Cole is. You blew him in high school. What? No, that was Tanya. Cole's gross. As I recall, Heather briefly dated TJ, not Cole. It was a weird coupling, with her being a couple years older, though I guess I have no room to speak there. She was kind of mean to everyone, so it wasn't surprising that they split. Ended up dating one of Leo's friends on the football team, if I remember right. Fucking whatever. Flynn waves off the correction. I remember taking an investigative journalism course freshman year that discussed interviewing techniques used by the police department. It included this big comprehensive list of tells for when someone's lying or obfuscating the truth. The way Heather's acting fits the description of a lot of the aforementioned. Wait, Heather, you're like best friends with Jeremy? Heather still looks like she's about to bolt, but responds regardless. He is cool, but what does that, and he sells pot around here? Jenna looks over at me, seemingly curious about where I'm going with this. Do you, need a plug? Because I don't get involved with any of that, I don't know anything. I quickly shake my head. No, it's like you're around him when he does that sort of thing. Were you there when he last sold to Cole? She shifts her posture some, the cat scratching behind her ear as her whiskers bristle. She cuts herself off, trying to think of the right words. They don't want me talking about this sort of thing with other people. Especially you guys, since you all hate us. I'm supposed to say that I don't know anything, but I do. I'm not stupid. Her voice is raised now, and she's clenching her fists against her stomach. Yeah, I get that, it's totally cool. You're a fucking brainiac for sure. Shut up. She screeches at Flynn, the glitter covering his ear holes with a wince. Jesus fucking Christ. Just ignore him, okay? He just wants to find our friend. We're really worried. Her dilated pupils flit back and forth between the two of us. There's another long silence. Like Keith? That name again. Sounds familiar. I look to Flynn and Jenna to see if it's ringing any bells with them. I'm not getting anything from Flynn, but Jenna frowns some. Hopefully not like Keith. And that's why we're here now. Heather's shifting gaze meets Jenna's, holding there for a moment before refocusing on me. I was eating apple smoked jerky with Jer when Cole texted that he needed some stuff. He did the deal, but nothing special happened, I don't think. So nothing out of the ordinary? Heather thinks in silence for a while. Flynn, meanwhile, bites the cap of his beer and takes a swig. Clint and Micah came by later and kept being really weird and pushy. Well, like Clint was. Micah just stole my jerky, but that's kind of how he usually is. Pushy how? About Cole? I think so. Wait, really? Flynn stops mid-drink, looking on in anticipation following her statement. Yeah, it was like about the money stuff, which I don't pay any attention to. I don't really use money that much anymore. I'm like, aesthetic. Okay, but do you remember anything specific? I think so. I was calling Micah out for the jerky thing, but he just kept ignoring me. Clint kept talking over me, and when I got mad at him, he just started whispering to Micah. It was super rude, so I remember it really well. It's actually been, like, really hard to remember things lately. Oh, that's about all I can think of to respond with. As I look over, I can see Jenna tapping away at her phone, typing something. She peers up only for a moment, just long enough to give me a soft smile and then a nod. She must be writing all this down. Flynn, meanwhile, is putting in an active effort to keep his mouth shut. He's waiting on me expectantly to continue. Before I could follow up, Heather starts speaking again, this time to Jenna. I don't really remember, like, why we didn't get along. Because the name Jasmine pops in my head, and it's like, oh, that bitch. But I just saw you now, and it all seems so silly, doesn't it? Jenna doesn't even seem to react to Heather at first. She starts off the screen on her phone and exhales, looking Heather in the eye. She doesn't speak immediately, and there's this sort of latent tension in the air. Yeah, it is a bit silly now. We're all very much grown-ups here. And I appreciate the hospitality. You know, actually, we've got some spare cooked bluegill in the car. Spare? Flynn grunts. Flynn caught and cooked it himself. Flynn looks slightly less disgruntled after being credited, though it's clear he'd really intended the food to be for us. Oh, bluegill's good. I really like walleye, though. I just caught bluegill. I got some bass at home, but I didn't bring it. Also, walleye ain't really in season. That sucks. Cool you caught and cooked it, though. That's really rustic. I usually just get something from the gas station. You're welcome. As for issues of remembering things, I'm not quite licensed to be issuing diagnoses, but I did briefly volunteer at a memory centre up in Peyton. I actually think I have the card here still in the bottom of my purse. Jenna digs through her handbag for a moment before withdrawing a faded little card. Heather takes it, peering it over with some visible trepidation at the clinical text and brain imagery imprinted on it. If you can get a ride up there on a weekday, they generally can take walk-ins. The clerk there's a super nice horse guy named Jessup. He can help you get set up with a Medicaid to pay for it if you're not already covered. Horse guy? Oh, that's super neat. Thank you. It'd be really cool if they could, like, let me pick and choose which memories I get to keep, though. Jenna smiles, a flickering sense of melancholy behind her turquoise eyes. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Of course, the challenges and traumas that we overcome shape who we are today. Oh yeah, totally. So, double bummer if you're not exactly happy with who you are today. Right, Jess? Ha. She lets out a sad-sounding giggle. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Flynn blink some, and then peer offward awkwardly. He spits on the ground, the faint smell of his venom wafting in the breeze for a moment. I'm guessing he bit that cap too hard. Jenna opens her mouth to respond, but she pauses. Her ear flicks some, and she folds her arms over her chest. Yeah, double bummer. Let me get that bluegill. I'll be right back. Oh, okay. Jenna heads back toward the truck, and we're left standing awkwardly with Heather. Yeah, so, I'm gonna go get the others real quick, so, bye. Before we can say anything further, she takes off again. Jenna returns with the Tupperware, letting out a long sigh as she sees Heather in the distance. Props to you for not just smacking the shit out of her. That was, weirdly cordial, considering. Oh no, part of me wanted to, trust me. That would have made things harder for this whole questioning business for sure. Well, there was that, and I suppose I was thinking about what you told me when we were walking earlier, Chase. Flynn raises a brow ridge, waiting for her to explain. And she does not. I get the feeling you guys have a more intense history than I thought. I tried not to talk too much about it back in the day. Back then, she was rude to me, even when I'd done nothing wrong to her. I figured she was just insecure and left it at that. Then one night she came to me with no one else to turn to, tears in her eyes. She claimed she had some pretty serious problems going on at home and wanted to tell me about it. From that point forward, I was ready to defend her, to help in any way I could, short of going to the police, of course, because she begged me not to. It started out as little things, the favours. She was too emotionally distressed to do her homework, so I did it. She couldn't come to class because of a panic attack, and the teacher wouldn't understand, so I lied for her. She needed money to see a friend in Peyton, so I gave her what little money I had. This went on for some time, until eventually enough was enough. I had my own problems, especially at home, and I just couldn't juggle the well-being of everyone. It's not my responsibility. I told her up front that I was going through a tough time, and I couldn't do all those favours anymore, but I was always available to talk. That wasn't good enough, of course. Despite being busy with her fractured home life and the stresses of school, she still found time to create this elaborate revenge on the one person who cared enough to help. Next thing I know, her latest boyfriend of the week and his friends are pounding on my front door at 10 p.m. And what does he tell Mum and Dad when they open the door? She deepens her voice, putting on a dude bro accent. Yo, I'm looking for Jasmine. She told us to meet you out here to get some. So not only did they convince my idiotic parents that I was fucking 5 guys, including her boyfriend, she told the whole school. I had my paw smashed in the locker, was fired from my part-time job, and lost almost all my friends outside of you guys. Jenna gestures to both of us. She made herself the sufferer in that narrative, the one who had mistakenly trusted the weird, horny anime girl. Jenna takes in a sharp breath from her nostrils, her composure otherwise completely solid. And she didn't even have the dignity to atone for her actions when the chance was standing right in front of her. She continues to lie and manipulate her way through every social interaction to make herself feel better. It's the perpetuation of this endless cycle of perceiving herself as this sort of eternal victim, when in reality it's a complete delusion that hurts her and everybody else around her. With the way Jenna rattles off point after point regarding Heather's transgressions, it's evident this is something she's thought about greatly, maybe even rehearsed. I can't believe you never told me any of this. When I was hanging out with you guys, that whole drama was the last thing I wanted to think about. You know, it was actually Leo who kept prodding me that something was wrong and insisted he help. I suppose he meant well enough. Down the hill a ways, the dusty shape of 2 figures can be seen emerging from an old shed. One of them pauses as he sees Heather sprinting off down the road, while the other ignores her and carries on. Eventually, though, both of them see us and begin making their way in our direction. Well, here comes the gang. I sidestep over to Jenna, lowering my voice some. But are you okay? Jenna seems slightly surprised at the question, giving me a light smile. Maybe one day she'll realise what she did, even if it's not today. So, to put it simply, I'm good, Chase, thanks for the concern. After what she just expressed, it's a bit of an oversimplification, but I'm not going to press the issue. She probably really wanted that catharsis. So, what, did you come back with your posse to intimidate us or whatever? Jeremy's dull eyes are focused on me. I'm starting to feel increasingly intrusive, standing next to their bonfire with their beer. This is definitely the sort of shit that will get me smacked down as a kid. Is he here? The smaller bat whispers to Jeremy, seeming to be walking directly behind him, as if trying to stay out of sight. No, man. Micah lets out a relieved sigh, and after a moment, the familiar white fuzzy form of Micah emerges from behind the rotund fennec. He's clutching something though, a long piece of rebar? At first I think he's holding it as a sort of a self-defense weapon, but then I notice the hot white ash coating on the end. I guess it's a makeshift poker for the bonfire. Hello, Jeremy. Hey sis. Man, I'd ask how you been, but I'm assuming good, right? Generally speaking, yes. Where's Heather? Oh, she said she had to go do something real quick. I think she'll be back. Well, like I said, I'm well enough. However, we're still looking for Cole, as Chase here made you aware yesterday. Jeremy looks over me with a tepid expression, the faint outlines of a grimace forming at the edge of his muzzle. Really? Really? Flynn steps up, the geared tall enough that his shadow falls directly upon the smaller fennec. Well, Rockabilly, I don't see you much out here. Fucking wonder why. Micah glares at him from across the bonfire, the shifty-looking bat increasingly agitated by our presence. We told Schizo all we knew yesterday. Evidently not, but yeah, don't call him that. Jeremy lets out an amused noise, though it's clear he's also getting a bit tense, especially with Flynn's looming form. Heather was saying you were talking about Cole after the drop, all secretive like. Shortly after he fucking disappears. You tit-dirts want to extrapolate on that? Jeremy lets out an astonished puff of air, turning to peer past Jenna at me. Wow, dude, you really did fucking go crying to your friends for help. I feel a knot starting to form in my stomach, and I resist the urge to clench my fists. I'm just trying to find Cole. He's your friend too, right? Fuck no, rich tits don't got any love around these parts. Didn't even think the guy had friends anymore after you two left. He points to Jenna and I. Flynn scowls, but says nothing. Yo, does Mummy Mare know you're here? Micah's looking up at Flynn now. Because I won't be harassed, bitch. Flynn actually laughs, exasperated beyond measure. Kid, shut your mouth before I call your parents. I'm nearly 21 now, you can't do shit. Wow, he's that old. Yeah, I can call the sheriff on you for trespassing and an unpermitted burning during fire season, and they charge you as an adult. Then why's your ass here instead of them, bitch? Jenna rubs her temple with both paws. Okay, let's put a stop to that. We apologise for the intruding on your AHOA party, but we wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious. This ain't serious to me. Seems like a big joke seeing you clowns back together. Micah, enough. Her tone is so stern and maternal that it visibly catches the bat off guard. He seems surprised that she even remembers his name. Look, let's just have a seat, alright? Alright, sis, whatever you say. Micah blinks at Jeremy's response and then grumbles quietly. Yeah, whatever. The bat looks over his shoulder before moving to one of the camping chairs and taking a seat, and Jeremy does as well. Both seem to make a conscious effort not to sit in the princess ones. Flynn takes another swig from his beer and joins them. I hesitate a bit, but Jenna beckons me forward. As I sit, the singeing burn from the fire mixes with the glaring heat of the sun above, and it feels kinda like I'm slowly being cooked. It's incredibly uncomfortable, but I seem to be the only person bothered. Well, by the heat, that is. We've got empanadas in the mini oven. Is that an offer? It's a threat. What? Dumbass. Boys. Micah shifts in his seat. He keeps looking to Jeremy, as if wondering why he's even humouring this. He miserably pokes at the bonfire with his rebar, sparks flinging forth and dissipating in the desert dust. Jeremy, meanwhile, scoots his chair over and peers inside the little toaster oven-looking thing. It's hooked up by what looks like a 50-foot extension cord that goes into the shattered window of the nearby trailer. Yeah, they probably need a little bit more time cooking anyway. Now, about Cole. Yeah, didn't want to tell you, you know? He gesticulates toward me. He's been like really depressed as of late. I mean, anybody would get that impression if they talked to him a little. I think like, once you're so rich and you have everything that you want and don't need to work, it fucks with you. Life alone ain't good enough, man. Now, if you know what's good for you, this stays between us, cool? He looks from Jenna to Flynn and then finally to me. Micah's staring hard at Jeremy, the runty bat's lips thinned over his little fangs. Oh, sure. Yeah, whatever. I suppose it depends. Flynn sighs loudly, placing his face in his hands. We didn't do nothing to Cole direct, like. He just kept telling me that he wanted to feel something, you know? Didn't care what it was. Didn't care what did it to him. I kept telling him like, nah man, you're too soft for this, but he wasn't having it. So I gave him like a sample bag. I thought you told me you didn't give him anything else. I said I didn't give him anything laced. There's a difference, Joe. Plus I figured you would have found his tweaking fat ass by now. A sample bag of what? Flynn practically growls. Speed. You gave Cole meth. Cole asked for fucking meth. That's horseshit. I don't know what to tell you, man. You must not know him as well as you think. Carl and meth? Doesn't make any sense. Cole got really into the enlightened drug use thing in high school, but he was never on board with stuff that hard. Flynn's fuming in his seat, and even Jenna looks perplexed. Jeremy, where are you getting meth? Yo, enough questions. Yeah, like, out of respect for your situation and stuff. I thought you should know. But we ain't got nothing more than that. God damn it. Flynn's face is pulled into a silent snarl, eyes clenched shut. Jenna's just frowning to herself, her phone in her lap. No one says anything for a while. I have a million questions, but I don't think they'd answer any of them. For some reason, the first thing out my mouth is, wasn't a hoa party. Jeremy and Micah both look at me with quizzical expressions. Something that Keith came up with? Yeah, it means like happy, Emercetin or something. Well, not exactly happy, something more profound than that, I'm sure. Everything has a fucking deeper meaning with him, doesn't it? Jeremy let out a mirthless smirk, a fennec grabbing a few paper towels before taking the empanadas out and setting them onto a small tray. Yeah, but who's Keith? How the shit do you not remember Keith? Micah looks downright offended. He sounds familiar, but I just can't put a face to the name. Well, you're in luck, Mask Man. I'm not sure what he means until I see him move to pick up something, sifting in one of the half-folded up camping chairs. It's a picture frame with a bunch of different pieces of handwriting on the back. To my surprise, he walks over and hands it to me. This is Keith. In the frame, there's a pretty unelaborate picture of a stoned-looking fox guy. He's in a ratty lifeguard bucket hat and wearing an oversized hoodie with a stylized looking eye on it. I feel like I've seen him before, but only in passing. You bring this with you everywhere? Just to the bonfires, kind of like a super old tradition we picked up after what happened. I know it's like super culty, creepy and shit, but Keith would have thought it was neat. He was all about that whole moral support Big Brother vibe. What happened to him? The question's blunt, and it seems like one hell of a sensitive topic for these guys, but now I'm genuinely curious. He went missing. One day he's here slinging dope and playing foosball with us in that mouldy shack he ran that bar out of, and the next, gone. And nobody knew where he went? Nope. Next thing we knew, Micah poofed as well. The bat looks guilty, squirming in his seat. We didn't expect you to show back up either, though. Same goes to you, I guess. He looks over to Jenna. She responds with a polite smile, nothing more. What's going on here? As I hear Clint's voice, I see Micah quickly sit upright, visibly startled. There they are. Look, I told you. I didn't tell them anything. Heather's tugging at the weasel's tank top, but Clint quickly smacks her hand away. Clint. It looks like death. Emaciated, dishevelled, teeth rotting out of his head, his fur falling out, and pink lesions dotting his flesh. Jeremy and Micah look pretty rough, but nowhere near as bad as him. I quickly hand the Fennec his picture back. We were just leaving. Jenna pulls her purse tight to her side and stands up. Thank you for your hospitality, and it was good seeing you again, Jeremy. I should fucking kill you three right here. Get the fuck out now. Go. Go. I'm getting my fucking gun. I'm getting it. Clint stomps off toward the nearby trailer, swearing up a storm. Ah, shit. Micah quickly refocuses his attention on the rest of us. Yeah, get the hell out of here. I half expect Flynn to start shouting back, but instead I look over and he's already up. The ghillie is making a clicking noise and gesturing with his head toward the truck. No, Clint, it's okay, I swear. I quickly get out of my seat and fast walk to catch up with him, and Jenna does the same. What the hell? It's all Jenna can say as she shakes her head in disbelief. We all hop in Flynn's ride and take off without looking back. Wow, Clint is hardcore. Alright, so I think we'll leave that there. We learned a couple of things, and a lot of it was not very good, but we did kind of develop our relationship with Jenna, which was actually quite nice. But that's it for now. This is Ushio signing off, and hopefully I will see you next time.